Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today I have a question, because it's something that I've been thinking about for a little while, and obviously it's something I have felt for a long time, but it's kind of becoming very, very strange now that we have a new PTB on the horizon. Obviously this mid-chapter update that's coming, the PTB had a lot of very dramatic changes. Obviously we had like Circle of Healing and Dead Hard taken out, which are very, very strong survivor perks. Obviously, Overcharge and Call of Brine are being nerfed, which are very, very strong killer perks. Basically, kind of like a baby meta shakeup. Pain Res, very, very popular killer slowdown, being nerfed as well. Basically, most of the popular perks in the game are being nerfed that are meta on both sides. But I've noticed that, especially with the healing change, that something stuck out to me, because the healing change is obviously something that most people are almost unanimously against. Most people will agree that, you know, medkits needed to be looked at. Medkits and the combinations you can make with them are pretty strong, and arguably too much so. But most people didn't think that base kit healing needed to be changed, much less the recovery speed being abysmal as it is, where you can be on the ground for almost a fourth of your whole bleed out timer now, which is absolutely crazy. And most people are malaligned to that. Most people are like, hey, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And there's always been this elephant in the room that I've always thought was way, way worse, because at least healing is, for the most part, an altruistic thing. Obviously, things like Circle of Healing circumvented that, but, you know, that got adjusted. That's different now. But healing, for the most part, was something else you could do. It was a side objective for the survivors to play altruistically, to get hook saves, to heal each other, to do something, right? It was something other than the gens to do. And I think this is going to inadvertently lead us to a more gen-focused meta, because people are going to be bringing less medkits, focused less on healing, and playing more injured, and ergo, you know, sticking on gens more, and kind of like creating more of a gen rush meta, more so than already exists. And, you know, that's the spoiler. Here it comes. What is perks like Prove, Hyperfocus, the Hyperfocus Stakeout combo, BMPs? Like, why are these still the way they are? Because it seems like major perk shakeup after major perk shakeup, they seem to, for some reason, just be against adjusting anything that like legitimately has to do with Gen Rush directly, something that actually affects Gen speeds. Matter of fact, Overzealous, which, you know, was a fairly weak Gen speed perk, actually got buffed. In the mid-chapter change, and I'm gonna go through because not a lot of people are complaining about it, because honestly, Overzealous you would see sometimes on some very, very like obnoxious full 4-perk gen builds, but like other than that, you don't really see it too often. But that's another gen perk that just kind of, or gen rush perk that kind of just got like buffed. And now survivors are gonna be spending less time healing, so perks like Prove Thyself, Hyperfocus Stakeout combo, bringing toolboxes, obviously, which have not been adjusted in any way, or it's going to be way, way, way more appealing over bringing medkits. So it feels like I said, it feels like it's just a huge elephant in the room. Is like, we really, for some reason, behavior really does not, for whatever reason, want to ever touch Prove, ever want to touch Hyperfocus Stakeout as a combo. They don't want to touch toolboxes again and take another look at them. They're just kind of like, this is fine. This is totally cool. And I think, like I said, like at least with Survivor and healing, there's a little bit of gameplay happening there. There's like hooking. Is it safe to heal here? Do we heal underhook? Do we heal over off to the side? Like there's gameplay happening there. There's some skill involved, some input required from the survivor, but really having 2 people stack on a gen and getting Prove Thyself value requires 0 skill. Sitting on a gen and holding right click with the toolbox and hitting slightly more skill checks is not skillful. That was the that's the reason, by the way, that that toolboxes have more skill checks, is because they were trying to make it like, you know, kind of like a payoff. They're trying to like balance toolboxes a little bit by at least you have to hit more skill checks. But, you know, if you've been in the game for more than 5 hours, you can probably hit a lot of your skill checks. Like it's not that crazy, I promise. It's not that much of a balancing factor. So toolboxes are basically, you know, still super strong, still super good. And Hyperfocus has been the way it is since launch. It is the way it is. It goes burr. It goes burr. And by itself, it's not. It's still really good, and it's really strong, and it is a gen rush perk. But it really comes into its own as being kind of obnoxious is when people pair it with Stakeout, because the skill involved with, like, realistically, even good players that have thousands of hours have a hard time getting up to like 6 of those great skill checks hits to make Hyperfocus really obnoxious. So kind of like, you know, Hyperfocus is kind of the form of what Toolboxes probably should be now that I think about it. Because Hyper Focus not only gives you more skill check chances, but it also adjusts the speed every time. So the timing is different every time. So it's actually messing with you and like testing you. So it's a little bit more fair. But you can just pair it with Stakeout and just completely ignore the skill aspect of that, because if you don't know, Stakeout transfers good skill checks to great skill checks if you hang out in the killer's territories for a while. So that hard aspect of the perk is just completely taken away, and you just get essentially free gen progress. Or extra gen progress, which is crazy. It's just crazy, and it's always been that way. And they've never adjusted. They're just like, yeah, that's fine. So Toolboxes are fine. The MPs are fine. Hyper Focus Stakeout is a fine combo. Prove Thyself is a fine combo. Even in 6.1, when they did the perk shakeup, none of these were touched. Even when we did the mid chapter, we're just having a lot of huge, like, big changes to a lot of very meta perks. Those perks have not been touched again. So I'm asking ourselves, like, what's Behavior's deal? Why don't they want to seemingly touch gen perks? Because clearly they're totally fine with touching slowdown perks. Slowdown perks are being adjusted across the board all the time. Like, hey, a pain res, I don't think deserved the nerf it got. Gone. Overcharge, eruption, call of brine. Some of those needed their nerfs, and I would agree with that. But not adjusting the gen rush side of that while adjusting the gen slowdown side of that is just like, it doesn't seem like it makes a whole lot of sense. And especially considering they're kind of like hands off, like, ooh, we can't touch Prove Thyself. We can't. We're not allowed to touch that. I wonder, this just occurred to me. Actually, it's kind of like a nurse, right? Like how we theorize or tinfoil hat theory that nurse is as strong as she is and the strongest character in the game. That way you can't accuse Behavior of being a pay to win, right? Because at least the best character in the game is technically free. I wonder if, like, Prove doesn't get adjusted because Dwight is the main character of the game and probably the first character you'll play because he is the main character. And he has, you know, Prove obviously is one of the best, like, top 5 perks in the game. So maybe they don't want to adjust that because of that. But also, then there's Meg, who has literally Addy and Sprint Burst. So I don't think that's it. It was a good idea, but, like, obviously they would, you know, they would adjust the other ones too. I don't know. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, what is the elephant in the room here? Like, what is happening with Behavior? Because they clearly don't want to adjust gen rush perks, but they're totally fine with adjusting gen slowdown perks. And it seems like a completely different, like, mentality of like, okay, slowdown perks, we got to immediately touch those. But like with like gen rush perks, like Prove, Hyper Focus, Toolboxes as an item, they're just kind of like, yeah, it's gonna stay the same. Like, I don't get that. Why do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Why do you think Behavior doesn't really want to touch these or seems fearful to touch these? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, it's gonna be it for today's videos, friends. Thank you so much for watching. But other than that, it's gonna be it for today's video. I do upload daily, but if I don't see you tomorrow, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.